Okay, we have returned to open session. Should I defer to the clerk first?
Yeah, then he'll.
Okay, so then, Mr. Clerk, the floor. Shh, Mr. Clerk. Okay, Mr. Clerk.
Very good. Mr. President, that brings us to item 63, and before council are the recommendations of the IGTCT committee.
And I will summarize what's before council. The IGTCT committee recommends that council approve the settlement agreement between the city and the City of Ontario and the Ontario International Airport Authority. The approval is conditioned upon receipt by the City of Los Angeles of duly authorized, properly executed agreements from both Ontario and the Ontario International Airport Authority. The highlights of the settlement agreement include immediate release of all of Ontario's damages claims upon the satisfaction of certain conditions, including the payment of certain funds to LAWA and approval by the FAA. LA Ontario International Airport will be transferred to the OIAA. If the FAA approves the transfer of Ontario, then Ontario will reimburse LAWA for all outstanding Ontario bonds, currently approximately $60 million. Ontario will pay LAWA $30 million in cash, and LAWA will transfer $40 million from Ontario's unrestricted cash accounts to LAX. After transfer of Ontario, no later than 5 years after transfer, OIAA will pay LAWA $50 million, and no later than 10 years after transfer, OIAA will pay LAWA an additional $70 million. The settlement agreement's Appendix F provides protections for LAWA and other Ontario employees. And finally, when the transfer has been completed, the pending litigation will be dismissed by Ontario with prejudice.
All right. With that, seeing no members on the queue, we'll go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Great. Thank you. That is approved. And I believe we're going to send that. Is everything's forthwith today? Is that correct? Okay, without objection. That's great. Okay. Next item, please. 53. Eric Previn, followed by John Walsh, followed by Wayne from Encino, followed by Ms. Ramirez. In whatever order you all choose, you can claw your way to the podium.
Good morning, Council. It's Eric Previn from CD2. Item 53 today, 15-1466, is your case file number, is a Krikorian Bonin motion to step into the future, sir. We are going to be, the police department has a number of vehicles. It's called the Fleet. We have taken 36, we're going to lease 36 vehicles. No, we're going to lease 100 vehicles instead of purchasing 36 vehicles. Now, obviously, that is stepping forward. These are going to be electric vehicles. I haven't quite figured out the who's getting the job yet piece. We'll get there in a minute. But there are a couple things that are of note. First of all, it's important to understand that these are non-emergency, non-patrol work vehicles, which really raises the brow as to why we are, because that means that these are vehicles that are used for other police activity, including, I hope not, sort of senior members of the department tooling around. That obviously is not something that the public is happy about, given all of the pressures on law enforcement budgets, and not just that, on procurements overall, because there's not a lot about how this is being procured. There is one also cautionary detail, which is that we're piggybacking. This is something, Mr. Englander, that I know you're familiar with, on somebody else's creative RFP. In this case, it's DWP. Now, DWP occasionally gets a good deal, and occasionally they don't. In this case, we're using someone called Greenlots, Inc., and they apparently are going to be providing the 104 chargers that's part of this deal. The big problem in lay terms, because that is all very wonky to ordinary folks, is leasing vehicles is, generally speaking, not the best deal. The best deal is to purchase vehicles. But because it's new technology, I understand what Mr. Krikorian and the smart guys are trying to do here. We're trying to tippy-toe forward while at the same time do something a little green But these numbers need to be very clear, sir. And I hope that going forward you'll be bringing clarity to these kinds of procurements and big steps forward.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Good morning. Ladies and gentlemen, no, we do not agree. Thank you, Krikorian and Bonin. This is really not a good idea. Electrical vehicles. One, we don't really know too much about electrical vehicles. And what happens if these so-called replaced fleet vehicles have electrical shortages? What if the gang-banging wetbacks sabotage
Stay on the subject.
Yes.
Stay on the subject.
We are on the subject.
Stay on the
We've got a
subject.
gang epidemic. And what
Stay
if...
on the subject. It's your last warning.
What if these vehicles get sabotaged? Somebody sneaks into the yard and sabotages these vehicles. What if they try to go after these wetbacks and gangbangers in a high-speed pursuit and suddenly they are electrical shortage? What happens if they're trying to do pursuits, these so-called vehicles run out of electricity or something? What happens if these vehicles are not equipped for high-speed pursuits? That's our concern. We are going to be going into the next year with a lot of crises, especially these goddamn gangbangers and wetbacks.
Stay on the subject, ma'am. Okay, that was your last warning, so you were off subject. I warned you 3 times. Your time is up. Thank you so much. Have a nice holiday vacation. Man, you're way off subject. Please. Now you're disrupting the meeting. Once again, disrupting the meeting, as you usually do. We'll just note it. Continuing to disrupt the meeting. Please, sit down.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org or J. Walsh Confidential, tweeting at Hollywood Dems. So the Los Angeles Police Department disgraced yesterday for closing down all the schools on something that was a non-credible allegation of the terrorists going to blow up all our schools. But reduce the money here. 123 electric vehicles. Believe me, maybe what they want these electric vehicles for is to grab people like black people like Ezell Ford, strap them into the vehicle and electrocute them, because this is the most racist police department on the face of the earth. We don't need $1.5 million spent on electric vehicles. HollywoodHighlands.org.
All right, Wayne.
We'll let the pig speak.
Stay on the subject, Wayne. Okay, now you're wasting the time. I'm sorry. If you're going to do that and you're not going to speak on the subject, you're going to forfeit your time, disrupting the meeting.
Very sorry. No on the vehicles. Electric vehicles are not fast enough to run away from the stray bullets that get shot at police cruisers. All throughout the city, they're taking these cop cars and supposedly are shooting the backs of them out. The cars electric do not go fast enough to run away from all of the bullets being fired at the police. So these cruisers are a waste of money. Also, they're too green. Gases are cheaper and cheaper. Gas is going down. And now they want to raise money for electric cars. Electric cars run on batteries. And when you drive your radio and play your radio too high, the battery goes down in juice. So no on these things. Like when they shut down all the schools yesterday, now somebody in a server can file one email, do not interrupt. Now they do this thing, is that the thing is not being done the right way.
Okay, you're done. Thank you for your time.
Disruptive of the meeting.
Goodbye, Wayne. Thank you. Thank you. Please have a seat. You're disrupting the meeting. You're still not sitting down. Okay, you and your little piggy, go sit down. Thank you. So, for our special guests here who's not been here to a council meeting before, okay. So we have, just to let you know, we allow anybody by law, pretty much, to say almost anything that they can. and then unless if it's within our jurisdiction, and those are pretty wide parameters because virtually almost everything falls within our jurisdiction, and so we don't have the ability under the First Amendment either, unless they're off topic, to shut them down or they're disrupting the meeting or threatening anybody of the public, and that's really the limitation. So you all know why we get to experience this each and every day from virtually the same people. So I just wanted to share that with you. And in between all of that, we're actually getting things done on your behalf. So I wanted to welcome you to City Hall and wish you all a happy holiday season. So thank you so much. And with that, we're going to go ahead and go on to the next item. Thank you so much.
Mr. President, we should first vote on that matter.
Okay, we'll go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Great, thank you very much. And that item is approved, and we're going to turn the meeting now over to Council President Mary Martinez.
Madam President, that brings us to item 54, called Special for Cards.
Okay, and first speaker on item 54 is Antonia Ramirez. Ms. Ramirez, are you here? She's not here. Next speaker is Doug Haynes, followed by John Walsh and Wayne Spindler. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Spindler, you are out of time. But Doug Haynes, are you here? Item 54, sir.
Thank you very much. My name's Doug Haynes. I'm with the East Hollywood Neighborhood Council. I chair the Planning Committee. And if I could have everyone's attention, I understand that the disruption that occurs tends to paint a broad brush, but I do have some questions that I'd like to raise. This item came before you in August originally as a motion, and it was waived out of committee at that time. It's also been waived the second time, so there's really been no hearing on this matter. Our neighborhood council has one of the properties within its jurisdiction at 5425 Carlton Way, and because of that, we're concerned about the potential displacement of the approximately 130 people who are involved in this project. We haven't taken a position on the project because we don't have any information regarding it. So what I would ask is, because the Housing Department has also not provided us with any information regarding this, regarding relocation, and there's no relocation information within the council file, if Councilman O'Farrell, who is proposing this, would please guarantee that there be no displacement or loss of housing by the individuals who are currently residing within these properties. And that would help us because I have to make a report to the board. I would appreciate that. And I do appreciate your time, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Mr. John Walsh.
Oh, John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org, J. Walsh Confidential, tweeting at Hollywood Dems. Always a pleasure to speak in front of Acting President Nuri Martinez. Why another high-rise in Hollywood? Believe me, Caltrans has said we cannot have another high-rise in Hollywood. When you're in and there's no information about it, they don't tell us, and I'm supposed to believe Miss O'Farrell up here? Displacement and loss, he is guaranteeing no displacement and guaranteeing no loss of homes. He has as much control over what's going on. He's a figurehead, as this microphone does. What they want to do is get rid of us in Hollywood. I've been there since 1976. Just as the Nazis got rid of the Jews, you want to get rid of us. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. That concludes speakers on item 54. Please open the row, close the row, and tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
Thank you. We're going to move on to item 1. Item 1.
And, Madam President, before doing so, there's been a request from member to continue item 1S to January 15.
Without objection. And let's move on to cards. Leonard Anabre. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Leonard Anabre, is he here? I don't see Mr. Leonard Anabre. Dale? You can please come up, sir. This is item 1J is what you signed up for. Dale? He's right behind you, sir. Thank you.
Yes, my name's Dale. I was fined about 3 years ago. I wasn't home, but my wife had set up a pool in the driveway, experimenting with it. Neighbor had given her this big kind of pool, and we have a child, and it was for her. And she set it up, experimenting with it to see if it was working and if it would be good. Apparently, some inspector somehow came along and had seen this pool up there and assumed that we were going to keep it there and have it as a regular item in our driveway, which wouldn't be the case at all. And my wife had taken it down later on and actually even just disposed of it. So this was never a pool that we had intention of really keeping. And this was something my wife had played around with. I wasn't even home at the time. I go to work. And so we were fined, apparently. I never saw paperwork come to my house. I'm not even sure how I knew about that we were fined. And so went to collections and so forth and so forth, and I haven't paid it. It seemed very unfair to me. Wanted to just give me a warning and say, you can't have a pool in your yard that's not protected, so children can't fall in there. So I've never been able to get in touch with this person that came along and inspected and see if they could change that just to give us a warning or lower that fine perhaps to a smaller amount. So that's why I've come to appeal that.
Sir, I don't mean to cut you off. I've just been informed that your item's been continued for 3 weeks, and there's a staff member. Wave your hand, Semi. She will speak to you regarding your 3-week extension.
And Madam President, for clarification, that's item 1J, and 3 weeks takes us to January 12th.
Okay, very well. Our next speaker is Lisa Walker. Welcome, ma'am, and you're speaking on 1L?
I'm speaking on item 1L for the Walker family. My name is Lisa Walker. I'm the only daughter of John and Sadako Walker. And we recently received communication from the city that we are to present if we oppose the imposition of a lien against this property regarding 2 notices from the Los Angeles Department of Building and Safety. It appears that a property title report was generated on which 2 addresses are listed, the proper address of the owner-occupied address, or property rather, and an erroneous mailing address to which all of the exhibits that are part of this case demonstrate that that's where the notices were sent to. This erroneous address has no connection to our family. This matter is now 5 years in the past, and the owners are unable to present due to the fact that they're out of the country. With that said, I am here on their behalf without a power of attorney.
Ma'am, I don't mean to cut you off, but I've been informed that your item's been continued for 30 days.
I kindly request that the item be continued for 60 days, please, so that I can do some fact-finding related to this.
Mr. Kokorin?
And stick with 30 days for now, but if you'd step over here, one of my staff members will have a conversation with you and we'll see if we can help you to get the facts you need within that time.
Thank you. I thank you for your attention, and I wish you a pleasant holiday season and a happy
thank you
new
very
year.
much. Same to
Thank you.
ma'am.
You as well.
And that's item 1L, continued to January 15.
Next speaker on item 1 is Dan.
Good afternoon. You know, as we sit here and compare the fines that go on from district to district, I'm noticing that is there like some sort of racial-based fee or fine for people in Council District 8? Because by far and away, your biggest lien today is item 1X, $20,542.70. One of the next biggest ones in CD8 is 319 West 94th Street for $14,000. Why are people in CD8 being given liens that are triple, quadruple, 10 times the amount of the liens of the people in the other district? You know, you need to have clarity. If you're going to give people huge discounts from these liens in CD2, in CD5, notice they don't happen that much in CD5, you should be fair to the people in CD8. They deserve representation. Just remember, you deserve the government you get, but for some reason, the people in CD8 are getting these much, much, much bigger liens, and it doesn't make sense, and there's no explanation. The city should be fair to the people in the poorest districts of the city as they are to people in more affluent areas of the city. It's like, why is this property have a lien for $20,000? Could it be because it has two different addresses listed? Maybe that should tell you something, that you're not reaching the people you need to reach. It has how can it have two different addresses on two different streets? It doesn't say it's a multi-unit dwelling. You need to be fair to the people in CD8. You get the leadership that you deserve.
Thank you. The next speaker is Eric Previn. And Mr. Walsh and Mr. Wayne Spindler, both of you are out of time. Mr. Previn, you're next on item 1, sir.
Greetings. I'm going to take 1 minute on this, but these are kind of some sobering remarks. I must tell you, team, this is an unsavory holiday activity to be collecting from 27 different residents. And I've looked at some of them. I haven't looked at all of them. I looked at the ones in CD2 because that's where I reside, and I try to pay attention. You know, a lot of this is compounded penalties and fines and stuff that hurts. And it hurts, I think, ordinary individuals who do pay their taxes but do not have a lot of resources. And then to bring them down here is a kind of a public shaming idea, which I support the idea of getting people to come to pay their tab, but just to bring them back and keep continuing it back and forth, it's very unsettling. And if we're making, or if there's a lot of revenue to be had in this space, that's one thing, but I think there's not. So I think that what this really does is it gives ordinary folks the impression that City Hall is just a onerous taxing agent, and I think there's so many positive things that we could focus on, Mr. Buscaino. And so, you know, if the City Council would consider maybe moving these to a less embarrassing space and maybe doing them, maybe having an amnesty program now, because I think it would be appropriate, Mr. Fuentes, to eliminate some of the fines and penalties like we do for example, in the LA Times today you can read about people who are having their fines reduced, like Mr. Weintraub for the Sportsman's Landing project and others. So my proposal is do something nice for the holidays and ease off. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Previn. Next speaker is C. Bryan. C. Bryan on 1R. I don't see anyone by that name, but Mr. Clerk, if we can continue 1R for 30 days.
Very good. That brings us to January 15.
Okay, great. There are no more cards on item 1, so let's vote on the remaining balance. Let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Great. Okay, item passes. We're going to move on to Special 1. Mr. City Attorney?
Thank you, Madam President.
Has it been circulated? I received mine.
Thank you, Madam President. Since the posting of the agenda, the city was informed that there would be a delay in LA Housing Services Authority.
Mr. City Attorney, I'm going to pause you for just a second. It seems like several members have not received.
We got
the Special 1 item has. Okay, I'm sorry about that. You can continue now.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll start over. Since the posting of the agenda, the city was informed that there would be a delay in LA Housing Service Authority's accrediting and thus funding Recycled Resources. Recycled Resources is a volunteer organization that provides services to the homeless in Northeast Los Angeles. Immediate action is necessary prior to the recess if Recycled Resources is to continue providing shelters to the homeless.
Okay, we're going to vote on, we have two votes coming up.
Yes.
We're going to vote on the findings.
Yes. First, council must make findings pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.2 before considering the substantive motion.
Very well, so that's before us now. Members, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you, Mr. Weezer.
Thank you, Madam President. And colleagues, Recycled Resources is an organization that took it upon themselves to find a location to house some homeless individuals in Northeast Los Angeles. As you all know, a majority of our homeless services are concentrated in a few areas in Los Angeles. But what's great about this is that we are moving toward decentralizing these services by opening up winter shelters throughout the city of Los Angeles. And when an individual comes from a certain neighborhood, gets support in that neighborhood, they are most likely to get back on their feet because they have a support network around them. So I want to thank Recycled Resources for taking on this very important work. The issue is, and the reason this is a Rule 23, is that this facility was slated to be one of the LAHSA facilities with the additional $12.5 million for opening up additional winter shelters because of the oncoming El Nino. However, it may or may not be one of those facilities because LAHSA has not made that determination. They have some concerns about pews and where the people will sleep. However, if we provide separate money as a private entity, a non-governmental LAHSA agency, they can continue doing their work, and they need the support to get through these next few months to remain open. I was there last night, and let me tell you folks, if you had seen or been there to visit and seeing how appreciative these individuals are to have a roof over their heads, we should be doing more of this. And these $20,000 in discretionary funds will help them stay open for these next months without jeopardizing us putting them out in the streets. And I want to thank the city attorney for verifying the need to do this at as a Rule 23. And this just came to our attention. I asked for your aye vote. This would allow us to move forward with 36 additional beds for homeless who need it. And they're at capacity. People are still coming, and we need more of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and call cards on Special 1. Rebecca Prine. I can't make out the N in your spelling, but
That's
welcome.
Okay. Prince fine too. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and our elected officials for letting us come forward and speak. My name is Rebecca Prine. I am the founder and director of Recycled Resources for the Homeless. We are a small grassroots organization that serves our neighbors that are experiencing homelessness in Northeast LA, which includes Eagle Rock, Highland Park, Glassell Park, Cypress Park, Montecito Heights, Herman, that area. We have folks that are living along the Arroyo Seco River who have been living there for quite some time. We also have folks that are living along the LA River. Our concern was that nothing was being done, and we wanted to be proactive in addressing the threat of El Nino. We approached the city council members who represent our districts, and unfortunately we were not able to locate a building. So we approached All Saints Episcopal Church in Highland Park, who graciously opened their doors for us. The Father is also here to speak to you today. We have 30 people that are staying in our shelters who have been repeat guests since we opened. This is very phenomenal for the population that we are serving. We are asking for this support so that we can continue to operate while the council is on recess. We had approached Cedillo's office in March of this year asking for the Highland Park Armory to be used for a regular full-time operating homeless access center, as we have no homeless services in our community. However, we were informed that was not an option for us. So we are disappointed that Cedillo is now tied up our funding in looking at the Armory, because the Armory is in such a state of disrepair. Even if we're approved for a winter shelter, it would not be operating as a winter shelter until 2017, and our folks need help now. So thank you very much for your attention on this matter.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker is Father Clark Prescott, followed by Monica Alcaraz and Wayne Spindler.
He did this first.
Good afternoon, honorable council members and the important people behind me. I'm Father Clark Prescott from All Saints Episcopal Church. I'm the benevolent landlord of Recycled Resources. Next week in my church and a number of churches, we'll read a story about a young couple that was looking for a place to stay. They found a place. It wasn't perfect, but they did find a place to stay. About 40 or 50 years ago, I gave up trying to change the world, but I did learn that I was able to change the lives of the people around me. I can make a difference in the lives of those people. For 2 weeks, we have made the difference in the lives of over 30 people using the great resources of Recycled Resources and All Saints Episcopal Church. I cannot fix the homeless problem. You cannot fix the homeless problem, but you can make a difference in the lives of the people around us, and I urge a vote in affirmative for the positive for this. Thank you.